Darkspeed knew Vector was in the room when he fired the grenades and must still be here somewhere. Darkspeed remembered the fortified position that was farther away from the rest of the complex. Vector must have retreated there, Darkspeed thought. Darkspeed slowly made his way through the rest of the command center and found the door that led to the corridor Vector used. With his in-gun in front of him, Darkspeed moved cautiously along the corridor. "More drones!" Glimmer said as she pointed to the sky. "I'll take them," Cosmos said as his bubble flew to battle. "Everyone else find cover, just in case," Ranger said. Cosmos flew at the drones with no intention of dodging. The drones fired and struck his bubble several times. Then he started destroying them with simple thought. They just disintegrated in mid-flight. Darkspeed reached the end of the hall and stopped at a steel-reinforced door. He took a deep breath and broke the door in. Inside, he quickly scanned the room and pointed his in-gun at Vector. Vector was holding a framed picture of a beautiful blonde woman in front of him like a shield. Darkspeed didn't know what kind of tactic this was, but it made him pause. "Norway is where I met your mother," Vector said at a normal speed. Darkspeed kept his in-gun aimed at Vector. Vector slowly lowered the picture so he could see Darkspeed's face. Darkspeed followed Vector into normal speed. "I don't think you could have asked for a better mother than her. Such a splendid creature, truly magnificent. Did Omni admit to killing her?" Vector asked. "He said it was a villain's lair, and she was with villains," Darkspeed said. "A villain's lair with a nursery? Did he tell you there was a nursery there? Did he tell you that he tortured 2 of them for information before killing them? Do you really know what you're putting your faith in? I know you killed my grandfather. I know how Omni was practically family to you and how you killed Jack. Jack was a stormtrooper doing his father's bidding. Jack was the British version of Omni without the sense of humor, if you can believe that. Omni told me during the beginning of the war he had the chance to stop you, and instead he tried to talk sense to you," Darkspeed said as he lowered his weapon slightly. "Omni wanted me to come back into the fold, to be a good automaton. Omni was narrow in his vision and slow to change. I am the future," Vector said. "Not after the casualties you suffered today. You're joking, right? These hacks are just fodder, expendable. I've kept my exceptional soldiers in reserve. What do you think I've been doing all these years? This is just the jab and move, the feeling out. The real war has yet to begin. That's what all this is to you? A game of cat and mouse? No, I actually have an ulterior motive. All good supervillains do. Didn't Omni teach you that?" "What, have my team destroy your forces?" Darkspeed asked. "No, to test you. You're all I could want for a second in command. Join me, and together we could defeat any foe," Vector said in a serious tone. "The only reason I'm talking to you is to get you to surrender. No one else needs to die." Vector laughed with real amusement. "Do you think for an instant that they would let me live? That they could trust a prison to hold me? I would be killed the instant they could do the job. There has to be some way to end this." "There is. Join me." "I can't. You're either on my side or you're my enemy. Your mother's enemy. I'm not on your side, so I guess I'm your enemy," Darkspeed said. Vector raised his hand and pointed the first finger of his golden arm at Darkspeed. "Last chance. Join me or fall." Darkspeed dropped his arms to his side. "I won't join you, and I don't believe you'll kill me." "More foolish than I thought," Vector said as he fired at Darkspeed. The black beam he fired at Darkspeed's chest stopped just a few inches from Vector's fingers. Vector didn't have time to think as his golden hand was crushed. Vector tried to pull his hand back, but it was frozen in space. Omni became visible as she jumped off of his back. His armor had special circuits all over the plates that covered him, and a small box hung from his belt. Omni's eyes turned blue as white heat erupted from his other hand. Vector turned his speed up to maximum to dodge the heat. He knew any strike from Omni was death. The cybernetic implant in his hand received the signal from Vector's brain to detach. Vector pulled back a golden stump and then had to move quickly. Darkspeed watched as Vector moved around Omni and grabbed She by the waist. Darkspeed knew he couldn't fire his in-gun as he jumped at Vector to grapple with him as he had done in the past. Vector could not be bogged down with tests of skill. When Darkspeed lunged at him, he reached out with his lightning glove and slapped him across the face. Darkspeed was still falling as Vector placed She in front of him as a shield. Omni looked to the side of the room and saw Vector with his golden arm around She's neck. His human hand had She's own sword under her chin and ready to cut. Omni wanted to blast Vector where he stood, but didn't want to destroy She. I thought this one was out of the picture. Clever. Tell me, how did you get this close to me without my alarms going off? Is it that new gear on your armor? Are you a stealth too now? If only you could heal others, then you could be your own team, Vector said. Let She go, Omni said. Why? She's the only reason we're having this little chat. If I were to let her go, you'd just kill me, right? You murdered Jack. Let's be fair. I mean, if we're laying blame, let's be fair about it. You never taught that boy to dodge. You taught him to fight like you. Only he wasn't you, was he? Now, thanks to you, he never will be. Omni looked at Vector's hand. It was half regrown. I should have listened to Kodiak about you. Kodiak was a fat pig who died with tears in his eyes. You need to find yourself better help than him. Kodiak is one more reason you need to die. Do yourself a favor and lose the British accent. It only reminds those of us who know the real you how fake you really are. Darkspeed was now standing again. He looked at the situation and didn't know a way to cross the room fast enough to not get She killed. Son, I'm glad you're up. Pay attention. Omni, tell me, how is it that you found another Omni in your lifetime? You and I both know there wasn't another Omni due for at least 5,000 years. Now you have one, maybe two in the wings? What have you learned about the Omni power that I don't know? Did you get your time machine working right? I'm surprised you were ever able to get it working in the first place. Maybe that was your real gift, temporal quantum physics. Is it that thing on your belt that's interfering with my red harness? Vector paused before continuing. I doubt you're that smart. You and I know that you never had the patience or the brains for that. That's why you started recruiting smart people, so your ignorance would never be exposed. Omni was silent. He let his eyes glow blue with energy, and his palms were ready to project whatever energy he wanted. Vector paid attention to his readied posture. Here in northern Egypt is where the first Omni was born, right? Amunet's great-great-great-great-grandfather? Is it 4 greats or 5? I can't remember sometimes. She kept closing her eyes and concentrating with all her might. Her body would flex and she would hold her breath. She summoned all the training she had ever gone through, every ounce of discipline in her body, and kept trying. Careful, if you try that push-pull stuff with me, I'll slice you faster than you could ever think, Vector said. Anything happens to her, and you go slowly, Omni said. Oh, I believe you. Do your kids know what you're capable of? How quickly you sank to my level? Vector watched as his hand was almost fully back together. These kids are fine superheroes, especially your son. Rub it in. I kill your son, and you turn mine against me. If they knew what you really were, what you're really capable of, they'd run screaming from you, Vector said. They wouldn't run to you. What's the difference between us? Push came to shove, and you adopted my methods. You abandoned your high ideals and the teachings of your God quick enough. Seems in the end, I became your teacher. You can call me coach if you like. She continued exercising her will, trying to get her body to follow what she wanted it to do. She knew she was close. She's nose started to bleed from her effort. This one's trying to do my job for me, Vector said as he looked at She. The feeling that eluded her was almost there as she pulled it in that last little bit. Vector's hand on She's throat and the blade he held were forced away from She by her force field. At the same time, She jabbed her elbow back into Vector's chest. The explosion that her elbow made as it struck shocked even her. Vector flew back and struck the wall behind him. Darkspeed was quick to sprint forward and wrap his arms around She, force field and all. He moved her out of the way and let Omni take over. Omni spread his arms wide and searing heat flew out to the sides from his palms. The room was divided in two by the heat. Vector opened his eyes to see Omni projecting solar-like heat off to both sides of him. Any thought of running around him or escaping was gone. Vector took quick steps directly at Omni. Vector extended a golden spike from the center of his forearm and out the palm of his hand. Once the spike was fully extended, it grew another 4 inches. Vector stepped within 5 feet of Omni and felt his skin begin to melt away from the heat. Every instant that passed, he felt the heat double or triple in intensity. One more step and Vector was close enough for his attack. Vector swung his golden arm with its golden spike extending out overhead. The spike looked like it existed and then didn't exist all at once. It moved through Omni's shoulder like it was ghosted or not real. Vector moved it until it was right over Omni's heart. The skin on the right side of Vector's face was burnt and wavy from the heat.